Welcome back to the All Seasons channel. Today, I believe I have a video that might interest some people. If you are thinking about going from a tanked water heater in your RV to a tankless, you might want to watch this video first. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you have not. Check out our Patreon page. Let's get into this. The differences between a tank water heater, which is a conventional water heater, what I would call a conventional water heater, to a tankless, which is what's new right now. Of course, it's not all that new. It's been out. Tankless water heaters have been out for quite a while, 10 years or so. I've been seeing them in RVs for quite some time. If you're thinking about going to a tankless water heater in your RV, as far as my opinion goes, it depends on what part of the country that you use your RV in the most. What? What difference does it make what part of the world or the country that I live in, or what kind of climate I live in? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Here we have a very crude drawing of a conventional water heater or a tanked water heater. You have a tank, which is in an RV. It's usually either 6, 10, or 12 gallons. All right, this tank's full of water. Let's talk about the propane side of the water heater first. I believe every RV water heater that I know of comes with a dual heating source. You either heat it with propane or electric. Same difference. The propane, we're going to look at it more because that directly correlates to the tankless water heater, because as far as I know, every RV tankless water heater is propane powered. But like I say, you've got your tank full of water. You've got a burner tube, and it kind of winds around inside the tank. This is not a very good drawing, but hey, I'm not an artist either. Anyhow, the flame, heats in here, goes in the burner tube, and then the heat kind of winds around this tube inside. It's kind of circular, but anyhow, the heat just goes through this tube and exhausts right here. And in the process, it just heats the water. And that's how a conventional water heater works. Got, very few moving parts in a conventional water heater. You're gonna have a gas valve, whether it be a manual valve or an automatic valve. And so you're gonna have a few moving parts in a valve, and that's really about it. There's some electronics involved here if it's a automatic ignition. So there are some electronic components, but really the gas valve is about the only moving part in these. So you got any questions on that? Put them in the comment box below. Let's talk about tankless water heaters, and we're just going to go over some of the very basic operations and how they work. A tankless water heater will have your water lines coming in and goes through copper coils, and these are pretty thin copper pipes, and they coil and coil and coil through an area that is heated by the propane. There's several feet, maybe even several yards of copper tubing in this thing. Your heat source just comes in and heats the air up around these coils and exhausts out over here. And that's how it heats its water. It doesn't store the water. It doesn't store the heated water like a conventional water heater. So this is cold here until you turn the water on and it lights the flame and starts heating water. So now let's talk about some of the electronics and the moving parts in a tankless water heater. The first thing you're going to have is a flow meter that is in this water line. Let me get a blue marker here. Oh, sorry. All right. You're going to have a flow meter. This is your water line coming in. All right. This flow meter is going to measure the amount of flow of water, and that will determine how much flame that you have, because this actually has a variable flame. The tankless does not have a variable flame. It's just all on or all off. But this will actually have a variable flame. If you've got a little bit of flow, you'll have a little flame. If you've got a lot of flow, you'll have a big flame. So that is a mechanical piece right there. It's got a little wheel in there that rotates when the water's flowing through. So now I don't know a whole lot about these, but I have worked on a few of them. There's a lot of electronics, so you're going to have a variable gas valve. So you're going to have, that's another moving part. You're going to have some sensors in this, probably several electronic sensors, I would imagine. And you've got a fan motor that draws the air in, the air fuel mixture, and it ignites here and it exhausts out here. So you've got a fan that does that. So that's another moving part. And that's really all I know about these. Like I said, I haven't worked on a ton of these, and it's actually been a while since I worked on one. So, but yeah, that's just your real basic functions of how a conventional tanked water heater works and a tankless. There again, if I've given you some misinformation and you know better than I do, leave me a comment down there. Let me know what I did wrong. All right, in preparation for this video, I went to Amazon and I found the 3 most common manufacturers of tankless water heaters. I looked at the information on Amazon, I read the reviews. They all got between 4.5 stars. And you read the reviews, and there's always that one guy that will drag your status down on Amazon, but you can't make everybody happy. So you kind of throw out a couple of the best reviews and a couple of the worst reviews and kind of read the middle. That's how I do it. The tankless water heaters got good reviews. Now we talked a little bit in the very beginning about where you live and where you primarily use your RV is very important to how I feel about tankless water heaters. I've installed a few of these tankless water heaters. I've worked on a lot more of them. Yeah, back in the early days, what we saw a lot of was just freezing and busting components. Because a tanked water heater, as long as it's on and running, whether it be gas or electric, as long as you have a heating source, you don't run out of propane, that thing's not going to freeze. Because if the water gets, starts cooling off, it just turns the heat source on. So that thing is not going to freeze. The tankless water heaters, on the other hand, back in the old days, now I'm talking about back in the old days when they first come out, I'm sure they've got much better now, but this was all cold, and when it got below freezing, these things would freeze and bust. Replaced a lot of flow meters, even seen these copper tubes just split, bust. But now I do understand that now they have a provision to, if the water, there's a sensor in there that measures the water, air temperature, whatever, probably water temperature. If the water starts getting too cool in these, it'll actually turn the water heater on, light the flame, and warm this up inside. And then it'll shut back off, and once it cools down again. So they have probably cured the freezing problems. But if you're in a very cold place, I'd say this thing's going to come on and off quite often, especially if you're like really in a cold place. That thing will go on and off probably fairly often. Most tankless water heaters are physically smaller than their tanked version. And yes, you can take a tanked water heater out and put a tankless. They typically either will come with, or you can order adapter plates to make these fit in the same size hole as a tanked water heater. So that's not really a big issue. The plumbing, sometimes you have to do quite a few changes on the plumbing, because a tanked water heater, you're going to have winterized bypass valves and stuff on the back that you can do away with the tankless, because it's just water line in, water line out, cold water in, hot water out. It's pretty simple, but you might have to make some changes to your existing plumbing to go from tank to tankless. Let's get to some pros first, and then we'll go to cons. And understand, this is my opinion. Everybody's got an opinion. That's what they say. These are just mine. This is what I've seen. I'd say that the tankless water heaters have probably been in the RV business, out in the RVs, 10 years maybe. I know I worked on some way back in the very early stages of the tankless water heaters. But anyhow, let's talk pros. You do have endless hot water with the tankless. The tank, if you've been in an RV, if you've ever lived in an RV or stayed in an RV, you'll know that if there's 4 of you in the RV and everybody needs to take a shower, it's going to take a while, unless the last couple of people is just going to take a cold shower. These do not recover really quickly. You've only got a base of, like say 6, 10, 12. I think I have even seen a 14 gallon, but you got that base of hot water to start with, and then after that, it has to recover, and they don't recover super fast. Tankless, you do have endless hot water, so that's a pro. They are fairly easy to install. If you're just changing a bad one or you're changing from a tank to a tankless, like I say, they're not all that bad. I talked about that earlier. As far as how much propane one water heater will use over the other one, I don't really know. Like I say, I believe the tankless in a very cold climate would probably use a lot more propane to keep the water from freezing in the water heater versus a tankless, because it is holding that water, and it's somewhat insulated, so it will kind of hold that heat in. So, but I'm not sure about that. So maybe if you have, if anybody out there has experience with that, leave a comment. Probably one of the biggest pluses I see with the tankless over the tank is you actually have a thermostat. You can change the water temperature. If you've ever been in an RV with a tank water heater, you know that it's hot. I mean, and there's no way to adjust that other than add cold water. There's no way to actually change the temperature of the water in the water heater. It's a set. It's just got 2 set points. Your low and your high, and your water's going to be in that range, and there's just no way to adjust it. So that is a pro for the tankless. That's typically done on a remote. Usually just run it inside the RV somewhere, and you can change the temperature to suit your needs. All right, so let's get to the cons. This is where it breaks it for me, the tankless. There's a lot of moving parts in a tankless, so there's more stuff to go wrong. And the biggest con to these is this flow meter, because this thing will not light and heat water unless there's a certain amount of flow. I have run across several situations where we would install one of these, and the kitchen sink, the lavatory, it'd make good hot water. Awesome. You go to the shower, turn the shower on, and the RV shower heads are typically a very low flow, water saving shower head. They flow so little amount of water that this flow meter won't pick up the sufficient amount of flow to start the water heater, or it will burn on a very low flame. So usually if you put one of these in your RV, you'll have to get a household shower head, which will flow more water, and it will do better. The more water it flows, the better it does. All right, so now we get to the part of the presentation where we talk about the con of the tankless, depending on what part of the country that you're using your RV in. And by that I mean the climate, and we're talking about ground temperature, because water lines run through the ground. So your water coming into your RV is going to be the same temperature as the earth that it's running through. So if you're in a very warm climate, that water is going to be warm. saw somebody in Arizona that their water coming out of the ground was like 100 and some degrees already. That's just crazy to me. So, and I'm sure people in the northern states or Alaska, you know, I don't even know if they can run water lines through the ground. I guess they have to. I don't know how deep they are, but I bet it's pretty cool coming out of the ground. So the tankless water heaters, they will only raise the water temperature so much from the water coming in to the water going out. There's a maximum amount of that it will raise that water temperature. And just for the sake of argument, because I could not actually find that anywhere on Amazon in the information or even in the comments and stuff, I never could find how much it will raise the water temperature. And I don't even think, if you buy a water heater, I don't even think that information is in there. It's when you feel like it's not heating the water enough and you call them and they'll go, oh, hey, you know, whoever manufactured, you'll call them and they'll go, oh, well, now this will only raise the water temperature so much. How warm, you know, what is your water temperature coming in? So just for demonstration purposes, because it's easier on my little head doing math, let's say it will raise the water temperature 50 degrees from the inlet to the outlet of the water lines. 50 degrees, okay? Now, here in southern West Virginia, that is the only example that I give you because that's where I've spent most of my life. In the summertime, if the water coming out of the ground is 65 degrees, you raise the temperature 50 degrees through the water here, you got 115 degree water. That's nice. That'll give you a nice shower. Put some cold in there and you'll be good to go. But in the wintertime, our groundwater, our water coming out of the ground, can be as low as 45 degrees, 45, 50 degrees. Well, you raise that 50 degrees, and all of a sudden you've got hot water that's 95 degrees. That's not enough. That's below body temperature. That's a pretty cool shower. So that is the biggest con that I have with them, because they will only raise the water temperature a certain amount from inlet to outlet. And I don't know of any of them, like I say, still my opinion, I don't know of any of them that make a water heater big enough to overcome cold water coming out of the ground. You know, maybe there's one out there, I'm just not aware of it. There again, if you've got other ideas, leave a comment. So, to combat that, the tankless water heaters do have a flow meter on the back of them. So it's reading the flow of the water coming in, and then on the outlet it has a restrictor on it, so you can slow the water down, you know, if you've got cold groundwater. But there again, there you go, you can only slow the water down so much before your flow meter starts cutting down your flame. Counterproductive. It's fighting itself. So there's the biggest con that I have with the tankless water heaters. That's my problem with them, is in our area, in the wintertime, you're not going to get a hot shower. You're not going to get real hot water to do your dishes. It's just not going to happen. So the ones that I have installed, you know, I try and talk people out of them, but some people, you know, they'll just, I gotta have this. It's new technology, and I've read it's got great reviews, and I'll tell them, I said, well, here's the problem with it. And they go, well, I'm gonna do it anyway. So they do it anyway. I even had one customer one time that we took a tanked water heater out, put a tankless, and come wintertime, and there's like, this thing ain't working. I said, well, I told you that. And I told you it wasn't going to do that, what you wanted to do in wintertime. So they paid me to take the tankless out, which was basically brand new, a few months old, and put a brand new tank water heater back in it. So they spent a ton of money for an experiment. So I'm trying to save you the same problems. If you live in Arizona, or you live in Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, you know, Mississippi, any of them Gulf states, you know, or like a really warm climate like Arizona, The tankless water heater would probably be what you'd want to do. There's a lot of advantages to them if your groundwater is warm enough. If you live in a cold climate or you use your RV in a lot of cold climates, I'd say no. Stick with the tanked water heater. Well, there you have it. There's my opinions on tanked water heaters versus tankless. So, hey, if you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Subscribe if you have not. And I'm going to go edit this video, and y'all have a fantastic day.